what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Destiny video. Today we're taking a look at how the Clever Dragon archetype of pulse rifles were affected in patch 2.5.0.2 and how they stack up against the Blind Perdition post-patch. While I'll be referring specifically to Clever Dragon and Blind Perdition in this video, it isn't necessarily a direct comparison between these two weapons. Most of the strengths and weaknesses of the Clever Dragon also apply to Grasp of Malak, and the same thing goes for Blind Perdition and Hawksaw. It essentially applies to all pulses within the respective archetype. So let's just have a look at the patch notes once more. In the patch, the Clever Dragon archetype got hit by a couple of major nerfs. They had their fire rate reduced slightly. Essentially, the delay between bursts was extended by 1 frame, which may not sound like much, but it actually makes a noticeable difference. Additionally, the magazine size of Clever Dragon and Grasp of Malak was also reduced by 6 rounds. However, this nerf to magazine size did not apply to the Wolves from Future War Code, even though it is within the same archetype. This means that should you choose to run Brace Frame on either the Dragon or the Grasp of Malak, your magazine size will only be 18 rounds and 21 rounds respectively, which basically reduces these weapons to pure dueling weapons. You cannot reliably take on multiple opponents with one magazine. The Blind Perdition archetype on the other hand was completely untouched in the patch. And it's not like they were considerably weaker than the slightly lower impact pulses before the patch, so in a sense the Clever Dragon nerf is an indirect buff to Blind Perdition. So let's have a look at how these two archetypes stack up against each other. First important thing to note is that the Clever Dragon does 23 damage to the head, meaning that you need to land 9 headshots to achieve the fastest possible time to kill. Needless to say that landing 9 consecutive headshots is no easy feat, but should you manage to do exactly that, your time to kill will be 0.87 seconds. Before the patch, this time to kill was just 0.8 seconds. The Blind Perdition on the other hand does 25 damage to the head, meaning you only need 8 headshots for a kill. And should you land 8 headshots in a row, your time to kill is 0.87 seconds, just like the Clever Dragon. But the Blind Perdition has one major advantage over the Clever Dragon. If you don't have perfect accuracy, you can actually get away with landing 1 body shot and 2 headshots per burst and still get a 3 burst kill. This will still give you a very respectable time to kill of 0.93 seconds. If you're not perfectly accurate with the Clever Dragon, your time to kill will suffer considerably more due to the burst delay. For every extra burst required, your time to kill will be at least 0.17 seconds slower. That said, the Blind Perdition will not always be a 3 burst kill. As a matter of fact, you will probably need 4 bursts most of the time, but for highly accurate players, the Blind Perdition will definitely feel more consistent. Then there's the potential for god rolls. With the reduction of mag size on both Grasp and Clever Dragon, Brace Frame has become a less desirable perk. The Grasp will most likely be fine, but Clever Dragon really suffers from this reduction as 18 rounds in a fast-firing pulse rifle frankly isn't enough. Sure, you can definitely make it through one gunfight, but you will have to reload constantly. This means that you either want to run a different stability perk like Perfect Balance, which grants a smaller bonus, or Handlaid Stock, which comes with a sizable penalty to range, or alternatively some may have a Clever Dragon with Brace Frame and appended magazine, which allows you to retain 24 rounds in the magazine with Braced Frame. But in that case you can no longer run perks like High Caliber Rounds or even Quick Draw, which is a very good perk to help out with the slow handling of the Clever Dragon. So with Clever Dragon you are forced to make a pretty significant trade-off, no matter how good your roll is. And same thing goes with the Grasp, even though it wasn't hit quite as hard. The Blind Perdition on the other hand has basically no drawbacks. It obviously comes with Counterbalance, which basically allows you to freely spec for either range or stability. You can run Smooth Ballistics with Handlaid Stock, or you can run Linear Compensator with Small Bow, and you will have more range and stability than a Clever Dragon with Perfect Balance has. And you obviously also have High Caliber Rounds built in by default, which even post nerf is a strong perk to have. And just in case you prefer the Hawksaw, the base vendor Hawksaw sold in year 2 has more range and stability than a Clever Dragon. So in my opinion, the Blind Perdition archetype is now stronger than the Clever Dragon archetype. It's more consistent, it has better potential for both range stability and perk combinations, and they're capable of taking on multiple targets in one magazine, which in a tight spot can come in extremely handy. But that said, Clever Dragon and Grasp of Malak are not weak. These pulse rifles are still one of the strongest weapon types in the game, only beaten out by mid-impact hand cannons and Blind Perdition's class of pulse rifles. Even though we've had buffs to high-impact pulse rifles and auto rifles, I don't really see them competing with a god tier Clever Dragon or Grasp of Malak. Maybe if you land an absolutely perfect roll, but even then I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to see how everything plays out when the meta has settled. But Clever Dragon and Grasp of Malak are definitely still viable options in the Crucible. They're not nerfed into the ground. Still, I would have preferred if they left this archetype alone and brought up more weapons to the level that these low impact pulses were before the patch. Hand cannons are obviously fantastic now, they're finally hitting their shots, which is what we've been asking for since the release of Taken King more or less, but I don't really think that any other primaries can truly compete with hand cannons, not even the Blind Perdition or a Hawksaw, and I think a pre-patched Clever Dragon or a Grasp of Malak would have been able to do that. But I'm getting a little bit off topic now. The bottom line is that both of these pulse rifles are strong options, but in the end the Blind Perdition archetype is the better class overall with a more consistent time to kill. They can take on more opponents without reloading and have overall better stats and perk combinations. Let me know what you think about these pulse rifles in the comments below, as well as your impressions of the patch so far. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Or are you still undecided? Let me know. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I will catch you guys next time.